Hi! If you've clicked on this video, you probably love to analyze movies and books or any other stories for that matter. You probably like to think about the characters, their journeys, their driving forces, and motivation. And maybe you also noticed that in a lot of stories, there are characters who are starkly similar. They have similar traits and go through almost identical journeys. Well, that's not a coincidence. There are certain archetypes of characters which seem to be almost universal. We can find them in mythology, some modern media, but also everyday life. Those archetypes were once studied by a psychologist called Carl Jung. A student of Sigmund Freud, he expanded on his mentor's ideas and added a new depth to psychology, which was previously unheard of. Jung had a great passion for mythology, folklore, and various forms of art, which he thought to be part of the core of the human mind. He believed that we share a combined memory, which he called the collective unconscious. In there exist stories and archetypes which surpass culture and time. The 12 archetypes I want to introduce to you today weren't exactly Jung's ideas, though. They were developed by later scholars, such as Carol Pearson, for example, but were heavily based on the findings of Jung. Nowadays, they are widely used by storytellers, cultural critics, and theorists. So, if you would like to find out about the archetypical characters who live among us since the dawn of time, I'm very pleased to be your guide. While I'm going to provide you with some examples, I would love to hear your ideas. So, while you listen, try to think of characters from your own beloved stories who might exemplify the archetypes and let me know in the comments. Let's start with the ruler. Now, when you hear the word ruler, you might imagine a king or queen on a throne, issuing decrees to loyal subjects. And yes, that image fits. But the ruler archetype goes far beyond monarchy. It speaks to anyone who feels a deep, almost instinctual drive to create order, structure, and control, not for the sake of tyranny, but to build something that lasts. At its core, the ruler archetype embodies leadership, responsibility, and authority. This archetype thrives on taking control of chaos, building systems, setting standards, and ensuring that things run smoothly. Whether it's the CEO of a company, the head of a household, or a political leader, rulers carry the belief that they must lead to protect the people and preserve the structure. The ruler's primary motivation is to achieve prosperity, security, and success through structure and governance. They want to build a legacy, a family, a company, a kingdom, even an ideology that will outlive them. They see the big picture and are willing to make hard decisions to maintain the whole. They are often natural organizers and planners, and they feel most at ease when they are in control. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility and risk. The ruler's greatest fear is chaos. To prevent that, they may overreach. The dark side of this archetype is the tyrant, overly controlling, power-hungry, micromanaging, and unwilling to delegate. In their fear of losing control, they can become rigid, elitist, or disconnected from the needs of others. In modern life, rulers show up in boardrooms, political offices, institutions, and even in families. They are the planners, the organizers, the people who instinctively step in and say, "I've got this." You'll often find them running businesses, heading schools, managing large teams, or founding their own initiatives. But you might also find a ruler inside yourself. When you feel compelled to take charge of a situation, to protect others through structure, or when you can't rest until everything is in its place. The ruler's journey is about learning to balance control with trust. The greatest rulers aren't those who demand obedience, but those who inspire it through wisdom, fairness, and service. Their ultimate test is to lead without becoming consumed by power. Now, let's move on to the creator, who is driven by a deep, almost sacred urge, the need to bring something new into existence. Whether it's a painting, a business, a song, a story, or a new way of thinking, the creator archetype is obsessed with originality, self expression, and innovation. Their core belief is if you can imagine it, it can be made. This archetype values authenticity over popularity and vision over conformity. While others might chase trends or security, the creator is willing to risk failure in pursuit of something meaningful, something beautiful, something true. Their greatest desire? To create enduring value. They want to manifest ideas, emotions, and insights into form that can move people, challenge conventions, or shift perspectives. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about shaping reality through imagination. But that same drive can turn inward. The greatest fear of the creator is mediocrity. Nothing terrifies them more than putting something into the world paralyzed by the idea that their creation isn't good enough. The strategy of the creator is to develop skills, mastery, and tools that help them translate inspiration into reality. You'll often find creators in roles like artists, designers, inventors, musicians, entrepreneurs, architects, writers, anywhere that imagination meets execution. But their journey isn't just about making art, it's about making meaning. Even when they are not in traditional creative fields, they bring a unique visionary energy to whatever they touch. A creator in tech, for example, doesn't just build apps, they reinvent user experiences. A creator in education doesn't just teach, they craft immersive learning worlds. Ultimately, the creator archetype teaches us that to create is to live fully. It's a reminder that within each of us lies the potential to shape our world, not by copying what exists, but by daring to build what doesn't yet. Next, we have the Sage Archetype, the embodiment of wisdom, insight, and intellectual clarity. Above all else, the sage seeks truth, not for personal gain, but for its own sake. This archetype isn't about changing the world through power of art, it's about understanding the world and helping others see it more clearly. The sage's core belief is the truth will set you free. Driven by curiosity and a need for enlightenment, the sage thrives on research, analysis, deep reading, and philosophical reflection. They don't rush to conclusions. Instead, they ask questions, big ones. Who are we? Why are we here? How does the universe work? What is knowledge? And how can it be trusted? The goal of the sage is to uncover fundamental truths and use that understanding to guide others. This is the archetype of the mentor, the teacher, the researcher, the analyst, the thinker. Sages don't just consume information, they distill it, interpret it, and share it with clarity. But even wisdom has a shadow. The sage's greatest fear is ignorance, both in themselves and in others. To avoid this, they may become detached from emotion or action. They risk falling into analysis paralysis, where thinking becomes a substitute for doing. Or worse, they may use knowledge to feel superior, slipping into arrogance or condescension. Their strategy is to seek out reliable sources, question assumptions, and pursue lifelong learning. They are natural skeptics, but not cynics. They want to believe, but only in what can withstand rigorous scrutiny. In modern life, sages often become academics, scientists, consultants, spiritual advisors, philosophers, or authors. But you can also find them behind the scenes, quietly reading, observing, and offering insight when it matters most. The Sage Archetype reminds us that clarity is power, and that wisdom isn't just about having answers, it's about knowing which questions are worth asking. And in a world full of noise, the Sage brings a rare gift: perspective. Moving on to the Innocent Archetype, which represents the eternal optimist, the pure hearted dreamer who believes in goodness, harmony, and the possibility of paradise. Their world is one where things should make sense, people should be kind, and life should be simple and beautiful. Their core belief: life is good. The innocent is driven by the desire to be happy, to be safe, and to live in a world without corruption, deceit, or pain. They see the world not through jaded eyes, but through a lens of hope and faith. This is the archetype of the child, the romantic, the idealist, and the believer. The innocent's greatest strength lies in their faith and purity of intention. They are naturally trusting, optimistic, and full of goodwill. They remind us that life doesn't have to be complicated, that joy can be found in small, honest moments. They bring lightness to the lives of others, offering kindness without expecting anything in return. But this archetype is not without its challenges. The innocent's deepest fear is being punished for doing something wrong or being exposed to the darkness of the world. They may avoid difficult truths, deny complexity, or suppress anything uncomfortable. Their shadow shows up as naivety, denial, or blind obedience. In an effort to preserve their idealism, they may turn a blind eye to injustice or be easily manipulated by those who take advantage of their trust. Their strategy is to do things right, to live by rules or traditions that promise security and happiness. They often look for someone to guide or protect them, be it a leader, a religion, a community, or a personal belief system. In the real world, innocents often thrive in nurturing environments: education, wellness, caregiving, spiritual practice, or any space where simplicity, honesty, and beauty are valued. But the innocent can also show up in everyday life as the person who always sees the best in others, keeps morale high, or brings a sense of calm and order through their pure intentions. Ultimately, the innocent archetype reminds us of what's most important when the world feels heavy: hope, trust, and a belief in the goodness of life. Their journey isn't to grow cynical, it's to retain their light while learning to navigate the dark. Time for the explorer, the restless soul, the seeker, the wanderer. This archetype is driven by a deep internal compass that says, there's more out there, and I need to find it. Whether it's the open road, a new philosophy, or an unexplored emotion, the explorer is compelled by a need for freedom, authenticity, and discovery. Their core belief: don't fence me in. The explorer's journey isn't always about physical travel. While many do love movement, adventure, hiking, travel, new experiences, the deeper motivation is about self discovery through exploration. They want to know who they are, and they believe the best way to find out is by venturing into the unknown. They don't just ask what's next, they ask what else is possible. This makes the explorer a natural innovator, boundary pusher, and rebel against monotony. They resist anything that feels like conformity or stagnation. Their greatest strength is their autonomy. They are independent thinkers who value self reliance and inner freedom. They are curious, adaptable, and open to life's unpredictability. Explorers thrive on change, and they often inspire others to break free from comfort zones and routines. But like every archetype, the explorer has a shadow. Their greatest fear is being trapped by rules, expectations, relationships, or even their own habits. In trying to avoid this, they can become restless, commitment averse, or perpetually unsatisfied. They risk becoming wanderers with no destination, always searching, never arriving. Their strategy is to keep moving outward into the world, inward into the soul, or forward into new ideas. They don't follow maps, they create their own. But at times, this can lead to escapism, always chasing a sense of purpose, but never grounding it. In modern life, explorers take many forms: the travel blogger, the startup founder, the philosopher, the digital nomad, the scientist pushing the edge of research. But you'll also find explorers in everyday life: the person who questions the rules at work, who changes careers to follow their passion, or who reinvents themselves over and over again. Ultimately, the explorer teaches us that growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. Their path is one of courageous discovery, and they remind us that life is not meant to be merely observed. It's meant to be experienced fully and freely. Next, we have the rebel, also known as the outlaw, the archetype of disruption, revolution, and defiance. This is the one who refuses to accept the status quo, not out of spite, but out of a powerful drive to shake the foundations of what no longer works. Their core belief: rules are made to be broken. Or more radically, if the system is corrupt, it must be destroyed. The rebel thrives on challenge and change. They don't follow the crowd, they question it. Their purpose is to expose hypocrisy, fight injustice, and tear down outdated structures so something better can rise in their place. Rebels are the agents of transformation. They are not afraid to steer the pot, call out power imbalances, or be the first to shout, "This isn't right." Their core motivation is revolution or liberation. They want to free themselves and others from limitations. That might mean political upheaval, personal transformation, or simply refusing to live a life dictated by others' expectations. In their most constructive form, rebels are trailblazers. But with that fire comes risk. The rebel's greatest fear is powerlessness, being silenced or controlled. And if that fear grows too strong, the rebel can fall into their shadow: destruction without purpose, rebellion for the sake of rebellion. At their worst, rebels can become reckless, aggressive, or even anarchic, burning things down without offering a better alternative. The strategy of the rebel is to disrupt. They challenge assumptions, provoke thought, and take bold action. They are not interested in fixing what's broken, they want to completely reimagine it. This makes them natural innovators, cultural critics, or catalysts for social change. In the real world, you'll find rebels among artists, activists, entrepreneurs, whistleblowers, and anyone who has the courage to stand up and say, there has to be another way. But they also exist in smaller acts. Someone who quits a job that drains them, speaks truth to power, or chooses an unconventional lifestyle just because it aligns with their values. Ultimately, the rebel archetype reminds us that disruption is necessary for evolution. It teaches us to confront injustice, to think for ourselves, and to question systems that demand blind obedience. The rebel doesn't destroy out of hate, they destroy because they believe something better is possible. Moving on to the hero archetype, the embodiment of strength, courage, and perseverance. At their core, heroes believe in the transformative power of effort, that you can overcome anything with enough willpower, discipline, and heart. Their motto, where there is a will, there is a way. The hero is driven by a profound desire to prove their worth through brave and difficult action. Whether it's rescuing someone, standing up for what's right, or pushing beyond their limits to achieve greatness, heroes feel most alive when they are tested, when they can rise to a challenge and emerge victorious. Unlike the innocent who seeks happiness or the sage who seeks truth, the hero seeks excellence. They are competitive, focused, and often thrive in environments where high stakes are involved. The hero's greatest strength is their determination and courage. They are willing to make sacrifices, to fight for others, and to face their fears heads on. They often become leaders, not because they seek control, but because others naturally follow those who act with conviction and integrity. But with great strength comes the temptation to over rely on it. The hero's greatest fear is weakness or failure. This can push them into their shadow, arrogance, burnout, or an obsession with constantly proving themselves. When everything becomes a battle, the hero can lose sight of what they are fighting for and may define their worth only through victory. Their strategy is straightforward: face challenges, overcome obstacles, and protect the vulnerable. Heroes don't avoid conflict, they charge into it, believing that the fight itself is noble. In everyday life, heroes show up in all forms. They are not always soldiers or firefighters. You'll find them in classrooms, hospitals, courtrooms, homes, anywhere someone is standing up, stepping forward, or sacrificing for something larger than themselves. They are the people who take on burdens so others don't have to, who believe in personal responsibility, and who lead by example. Ultimately, the hero archetype teaches us the value of struggle. It shows us that adversity is not something to be feared, it's a forge. And through that forge, we grow into the strongest, most resilient versions of ourselves. The hero's journey is a reminder that while the path is hard, it's in facing the hard things that we discover who we really are. Now, let's talk about the wizard or magician, who is the archetype of transformation. This is the figure who doesn't just accept the world as it is. They seek to understand the hidden laws behind it and then use that knowledge to change it. They are the masters of cause and effect, of subtle forces, of alchemy, be it spiritual, scientific, or psychological. Their core belief: I make things happen. At the heart of the wizard is a desire to transform reality, to heal, to grow, to evolve. But unlike the hero who does this through action and effort, the wizard does it through insight, knowledge, and intuition. They work with the invisible, whether that's energy, emotion, thought, or code. Wizards are the bridge between the known and the unknown. the logical and the mystical. They are the archetypal shamans, scientists, spiritual guides, strategists, and visionaries. Their greatest strength is their ability to see patterns and possibilities others can't. They sense connections, use language with precision, and often possess an uncanny ability to influence or inspire. They are change agents, not always loud, but deeply impactful. They are the ones who say, "What if we tried a completely different way?" But like any powerful archetype, the wizard has a dangerous shadow. Their greatest fear is unintended negative consequences, that their power will do harm instead of good. In the shadow, the magician becomes the manipulator, using insight not to transform, but to control. This is where you get the dark wizard archetype, someone who bends reality, but only for selfish ends. Their strategy is to gain insight, study the system, master the tools, and then use their understanding to create change. This often makes them advisors or behind the scenes guides. They don't always want the spotlight, but they shape the course of events from the wings. In the modern world, wizards are the therapists, spiritual leaders, quantum physicists, inventors, tech pioneers, and even skilled entrepreneurs. Anyone who transforms lives, systems, or mindsets through deep understanding and wise action channels this archetype. Ultimately, the wizard archetype reminds us that transformation is always possible and that the greatest power doesn't come from brute strength, but from understanding the deeper forces at work and aligning ourselves with them. The wizard doesn't force change, they facilitate it, often by helping others realize the magic within themselves. Up next is the jester, the archetype of joy, humor, and play. But don't let the jokes fool you. Beneath the laughter, the jester holds deep wisdom. Their mission? To live in the moment and remind the world not to take itself too seriously. Their core belief? You only live once, so lighten up. The jester is not simply a comedian, they are a truth teller in disguise, using humor to reveal uncomfortable realities and challenge authority in ways that others can't. They hold a mirror to society, not with a sermon, but with a smirk. Think of the Shakespearean fool, the stand up comic who makes you laugh and think, or the class clown who lightens tension in every room. Their greatest strength is their ability to bring levity, joy, and perspective. When people are overwhelmed by stress, fear, or pride, the jester cuts through it with a joke, a playful challenge, or a reminder that life is meant to be enjoyed. They have an almost magical ability to shift energy, to release tension, to get people to breathe again. But their humor isn't just distraction, it's insightful. The jester knows that truth can be more easily accepted when it's wrapped in a laugh. They can be irreverent, yes, but also liberating. By refusing to conform or play the serious game of life, they open the door to freedom and authenticity. Their deepest fear is boredom or being bored, and more profoundly, being irrelevant or unvalued. In their shadow, the jester can become a trickster in the negative sense, superficial, self indulgent, attention seeking, or using humor to deflect instead of engage. They may avoid seriousness altogether, masking pain behind a permanent smile. The strategy of the jester is simple: play, make jokes, engage others, dance with absurdity, But don't be fooled by the silliness. Underneath, they are reading the room better than anyone else. In the real world, jesters show up as comedians, entertainers, provocateurs, charismatic marketers, and meme makers, but also as leaders who use humor to build culture, teachers who make learning fun, or therapists who help clients laugh their way through healing. Wherever they are, they bring permission to laugh, to mess up, to be human. Ultimately, the Jester archetype teaches us that laughter is sacred, that joy is a form of rebellion, and that life doesn't have to be so heavy. Their message is clear: have fun, be real, and if you are going to tell the truth, make it funny. Another archetype is the Everyman, representing relatability, humility, and belonging. Where the hero seeks glory and the explorer seeks freedom, the Everyman seeks connection. Their deepest desire is simple yet profound: to be accepted as they are and to belong to something greater than themselves. Their core belief: all people are created equal. The everyman is the glue of society. They are not flashy or elite. They don't need the spotlight. What they want is to be part of the group, to live a good life, and to build honest relationships. They are approachable, authentic, and grounded. You'll find them as the supportive friend, the loyal coworker, the neighbor who always waves. They are not trying to be heroes, they are just trying to be real. The everyman's greatest strength is their empathy and dependability. They are relatable because they don't pretend to be more than they are. They remind others that it's okay to be human, to be flawed, vulnerable, and still worthy of love and respect. Their strength lies in their ability to connect, understand, and care. But their greatest fear? Being left out or seen as different. This can push the everyman into their shadow, where they sacrifice their identity just to fit in. They may become overly passive, avoid conflict at all costs, or lose themselves in people pleasing behaviors. At their worst, they conform so much they forget what makes them unique. Their strategy is to blend in, be kind, and build trust. They value community over individuality, stability over chaos. And while they may not seek leadership, they often end up in those roles because people trust them, not for their charisma, but for their consistency. In modern life, the everyman is the colleague who remembers your birthday, the barista who knows your order, the friend who listens without judgment. They thrive in environments where teamwork, humility, and kindness matter more than competition or status. The Everyman archetype reminds us that you don't have to be extraordinary to be important. You just have to show up, be sincere, and treat people well. They hold space for the rest of us to breathe, relax, and remember that we are not alone. In a world obsessed with being special, the Everyman whispers a different truth. You are already enough, just as you are. Now let's talk about the lover, the archetype of connection, passion, and intimacy. Above all else, the lover seeks deep emotional and sensory experiences. They don't just want to live, they want to feel alive, to love, to be loved, to savor beauty, and to form bonds that make life meaningful. Their core belief: I only have eyes for you. Or put another way, to be fully alive, I must be fully connected. The lover archetype thrives on relationship, not just romantic, but also friendship, family, art, nature, even spirituality. Lovers experience the world through the lens of emotion and sensuality. A sunset isn't just beautiful, it's soul-stirring. A song isn't just sound, it's memory, longing, joy, or pain. The core motivation of the lover is to create intimacy, whether with people, environments, or experiences. They are drawn to what is beautiful, meaningful, and heartfelt. In relationships, they offer presence and devotion. In work, they gravitate toward anything that allows them to express emotion or create connection, whether through design, music, poetry, or caregiving. Their greatest strength is their ability to form bonds, to love deeply and fully, and to inspire others to open their hearts. They remind us of the richness of life, the color, the taste, the texture of it all. In a world that often rewards efficiency over emotion, the lover says, don't forget to feel. But their greatest fear is being unloved, unwanted, or emotionally disconnected. In their shadow, the lover can lose themselves in others. They may become overly dependent, overly seductive, or define their self worth through external validation. At their worst, they may seek pleasure without meaning or manipulate relationships to avoid being alone. Their strategy is to attract, to please, and to bond. They often focus on being emotionally expressive, physically attractive, or charming in order to create connection. But their deeper power lies not in performance, it lies in authentic presence. In real life, lovers can be artists, therapists, actors, caregivers, lovers, poets. But they are also the friend who remembers every detail about your life, the person who decorates their home with care, or the partner who loves fiercely and gives generously. They are not afraid of tenderness, they live in it. Ultimately, the lover archetype teaches us that love is a force of transformation, that connection isn't a distraction from life, it is life. They remind us to slow down, savor, and cherish the people and moments that make us feel whole. In a world chasing achievement, the lover gently whispers, don't just exist, feel, love, connect. That's what makes it real. Finally, we have the caregiver, the archetype of compassion, service, and unconditional support. Their defining trait is a selfless desire to protect, nurture, and help others, often at great personal cost. The caregiver doesn't seek glory or recognition, they are motivated by a deep internal need to make sure others are safe, well, and loved. Their core belief, love your neighbor as yourself. The caregiver is the parent, the healer, the mentor, the nurse, the guardian. Whether they are taking care of a sick child, offering emotional support to a friend, or devoting their life to a cause, their purpose is always the same, to ease the suffering. They see service not as a duty, but as a calling. Their core motivation is to help and protect. They are deeply empathetic and emotionally attuned to others' needs, often noticing pain or tension before it's spoken aloud. Caregivers bring stability, comfort, and healing wherever they go. Their greatest strength is their generosity. They give their time, energy, and love freely. They are reliable, kind, and often the emotional backbone of families, organizations, and communities. But as with every archetype, there is a shadow side. The caregiver's deepest fear is selfishness, and in avoiding it, they may fall into martyrdom. They may overextend themselves, ignore their own needs, or become resentful when their care goes unacknowledged. Some may even unconsciously foster dependency in others, feeling needed to the point of burnout. Their strategy is to support others, to be of service, and to create safe spaces. But a mature caregiver learns that self care is not selfish, that to sustain others, they must also sustain themselves. In everyday life, caregivers show up in healthcare, education, counseling, activism, but also in quiet, often unnoticed roles. The friend who's always there, the colleague who makes sure no one's overwhelmed, the neighbor who brings soup when you are sick. Ultimately, the caregiver archetype reminds us that compassion is a form of strength. They show us that empathy can be transformative and that there is great power in kindness. In a world that often praises independence, the caregiver reminds us of the sacredness of interdependence, that we need each other and that caring is a radical healing act. Their presence says, "You are not alone, I'm here, and I will help you carry it." As you can see, the 12 archetypes can be found everywhere, in every text of culture, whether it be a movie, a book, or even a painting. We are also surrounded by them in real life. We can match our friends or family members with those archetypes. Now, I'm really curious to hear from you. What characters did you think of when I was describing the archetypes? Which would you call a typical embodiment of an archetype, and which would you see as a shadow or the opposite of an archetype? Finally, which characters do you think embody more than one archetype? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your perspective. I'm also planning to make more videos about the archetypes in which I want to analyze different works of modern media through the Jungian perspective. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, feel free to subscribe. But for now, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the archetypes and the characters you think fit them.